Hey guys, Ben Oosterveld here with the Business from Within podcast. Hey guys, Ben Oosterveld here. This episode you're about to listen to is one of my favorites. Kelsey Grant and I put our heads together and thought, what would it look like if we coach someone live on the podcast in relationships? Kelsey Grant has been working with women in relationships for many years, causing breakthroughs, healing, self-understanding, self-love. You know what? I can't even those words don't explain the magic that Kelsey does. Myself, I've worked with people in so many levels. A lot of times it's just getting to the place where they believe in themselves. They actually have the courage to be themselves, stand up for themselves, and let their light shine. Boy, that sounds pretty fluffy, but if you experience it, you'll know what it means. We collided our energy together. We had Diane come on the show. She's a beautiful human being from Japan. She teaches English, and she wanted to talk about intimate relationships and the fears that are actually holding her back from getting into them. We thought that was a great topic, but what actually happened was there was a moment where it's like, you know what? We kind of just jumped in and said, how's your relationship with your family? Do you have relationships around you that you don't really feel respected, and are they strengthening you or weakening you? The idea was to bring Diana to a place to look at other relationships outside of the intimate ones so she could identify some of the patterns and things that she's doing in other relationships that are actually folding right into intimate relationships. We talked about how she potentially could position herself to be fully controlled by a man just with the old patterns about how she's actually creating the relationship with her parents. It was actually it is a really, really cool episode. We talked about infinite patience. We talked about how the people around you, do you have a 5 core that you can actually reach out to remind you that you are brilliant? Do you have that? Anyways, listen up, guys. I don't like long introductions. This is the longest one I've ever done. Please have a listen. You will love it. I promise. So Diane and Kelsey, and my name is Ben, obviously. We are trying out something new. I think we've got high hopes. We think that there's a lot of people out there that have limited access to really authentic help. And we just wanted to put our heads together and our hearts together and try to support people. And we put a word out there, and we've had a bunch of applications come in. And just about relationship questions, challenges. There's so much stuff out there that I don't feel like it really does anything, to be honest. There's a lot of stuff, and both Kelsey and I have been working in relationships in one way or the other. And yeah, so we're here to support Diane, maybe add a little perspective to life. Maybe what's cool is that we're putting a male and a female together. That's where I think is kind of excited here with Kelsey and I, because they come from a different angle. And
yeah, we're both very different.
We're both very different people, but we both are deeply driven to impact people's lives, and that's what drives us. So, anyways, Diane, you're in Japan right now.
Yes, I'm in Japan.
And so, give us a little context of where you're at, and then I'll tell you a little bit how we know Kelsey and all that too. So you're in Japan. What brings you to Japan?
So I have always had this dream to teach English overseas to students. So it was one of those I always wish I could do it. I wish I could do it. And then I was, in Vancouver, and I was out for lunch with a friend, and he just looked at me and said, well, what's stopping you? So he was right. Yeah, right. I was like, I've been talking about this for years, but I haven't actually done anything about it. So I heard about this program. It's called the JET program. And I decided to apply, and then just we'll see what happens. If I get in, I'll go. If not, it's not the end of the world. At least I tried. I can't say I didn't try. And then I got in. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I actually have to
crap, I gotta go. That's so how it is. Hey, you're like, I don't think I'll get it. I kind of hope I don't get it. And then you get it.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I guess I have to follow through now. So, and now here I am. I'm teaching English to high school students.
A year?
A year, yeah. In August, it'll be 1 year.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I'm having a blast. I'm really loving it here.
Cool.
I ended up in a beautiful area where it's more quiet and there's lots of nature and mountains around me. My students are pretty good at English. I'm more at an international school, so I've got some really smart and good English speaking kids. The teachers are very supportive, and they give me a lot of freedom to do whatever I want. So yeah, it's been really good. Yeah,
cool.
I'm pretty happy.
So that's really cool. We'll talk. We'll probably get to know you quite a bit here. But so Kelsey and I know each other. So you don't know that we know each other, but context-wise, it was just through, I don't know what the word is. Coincidences.
Divine intervention.
Just right on the table.
Magic.
Magic.
That's what I honestly,
so true.
You just
so
meet
true.
people through magic all the time.
Well, it was just a weird story how one guy, I was in a mastermind group, and the guy just says, hey, can someone drive me to San Francisco? It was like an hour and a half away. And I didn't really know this guy. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll drive you. Because he had to go to the bank. Some really random story. He had like this big real estate deal. They had to move 300 grand or something like that. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll drive you to the bank. And he's from Canada, and he had to get to the Canadian bank. At the end of the day, there was no money transferred. It didn't even work. Like, it was a complete waste of time. But what I did do is I heard about this Kelsey Grant girl. We were talking about my relationship with my wife and how we were really challenged in our relationships. And he's like, you got to talk to Kelsey. And he told me about his story, and it was pretty compelling. And then with Renee and I, just before we were about to divorce, we met Kelsey. And I remember the day sitting in the parking lot, and I'm like, we were fighting all the time. And I remember driving to the parking lot where I'm like, hey, well, I'll meet you. I'll be at this place. If you want to come, I'm meeting with Kelsey. I don't care. Anyway, she shows up, and we have our first session together. It was, and honestly, she spoke at, my retreats. She spoke to my groups. I met her a lot of different people, and Kelsey's been deeply involved in a lot of stuff we've done. So yeah, so our context is I was a student and of Kelsey's work, and now we have really joined forces in what we do in a way. So big impact. So I'm sure, I think Kelsey's worked with you as well, right?
Yeah, Kelsey's worked with me, and definitely my last, I'm so glad I did the year with Kelsey before because I don't think I would have been able to handle all the changes since coming here. It's been challenging here. I mean, I tell people, oh, I love it in Japan, but it's been challenging. Yeah. I don't speak the language, and everything's in Japanese, and things are different here, and I have to rely on so much help from so many people. And I think the me that was a year ago, 2 years ago, would have been very, very challenged by that. I would have been fighting every step of the way.
It's cool because you can see what's possible with growth, with personal growth. Yeah. Like, it doesn't mean we have to be stuck forever, because it just doesn't, right? We can handle so much more as we grow. So
and there's no more bad days. Before, I had bad days all the time where I was just lying in bed and just hopeless. But now it's just, oh, well, this is a bad moment, but it's not the end of the world. It just seems like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, oh, well, this just happened. But it's not so like, good. I'm like debilitated. I don't even know the word. Just
debilitated.
Yes, I will let you say that word. I can't say it.
Yeah, that is English.
With weeks in bed and just thinking my life is, I'm useless.
So if you had to say like one or maybe one thing that Kelsey's done, I'm just curious now. One thing that Kelsey helped you shift that you say, like, right out of the top of your head, like, this is the thing that's helped me shift. What would that be?
Softness. Definitely softness. That was my goal. I remember setting intention. I want to learn softness because I've been so angry for so long. And I noticed that of all the things I was angry about, I was the common denominator. It was me.
That's
and
so
I just
good.
could not figure out, like, what is it? Like,
it's everyone else.
Not someone else. It's not everyone else anymore. Yeah. This is me. So
do you ever feel like you have a shadow side of that still kind of shows up sometimes?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I can
for
relate to
sure.
that.
Yeah, sometimes it just pops up. It kind of reminds you.
It just doesn't have the strength anymore, right? Yeah, that's really cool.
Now I talk to it, and you're like,
it's
okay,
like a fist bump, Kelsey.
Thanks, guys.
I hear you, but okay.
So that's a wrap,
Yeah, let's talk about this. Yeah.
So
whereas before I had to listen to it, right? Now
so Kelsey,
it's just like,
it's just our brain, like our brain kind of just does its thing, and we got to separate that's just my brain working sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Kelsey, this is our first time, so I'm thinking, like, we should probably go back into some of the questions that you asked, and you're here with a purpose. Love to, I think we're just going to roll. And I read your application. Sounds like such an official thing. Application.
I know. It's so serious.
The big application.
We're professionals now.
You actually are. You're like turn up my game.
Yeah.
You're like, just fill out this form I built. I'm like, oh, okay. I would have done that.
Okay.
I just got off pen and paper.
Just go rogue. Just like invite someone in and go rogue.
Never happens.
So if you were to say the biggest challenge or the biggest area you would feel like you would like some support or just a perspective on, because it's obviously we can't, like, the expectation today is not to make a big breakthrough. We would love that.
No,
but just even a subtle perspective change, or just a thought that kind of puts a seed in things. And I think that's where, in time it can grow, right? Is there, so through the questions, is there anything that popped up going, okay, that'd be kind of cool to talk about? And then we might talk about it. We might have to.
We'll see how we feel.
We'll see. So, I mean that because sometimes we put the stuff on the table that we want to talk about.
You totally talk about something.
And you're like, oh, this is what I want to talk about. I'm
Right.
like, you don't want to talk about that. You want to talk about the thing you don't want to talk. So what's the thing you don't want to talk?
What's the thing I don't? Okay,
Yeah,
what I don't want to talk about. What I don't want to talk about is how I have a friend, a girl that I work with twice a week, and she is younger than me by 10 years. And a lot of the people in this program are younger than me. And what I don't want to talk about is the fact that I feel jealous when she goes out on dates and when she sounds like she's having a great time. And I feel like I'm left out. Like, maybe I'm too old. I can't date anymore. Or sometimes I feel like, I told you I was going to cry. And it's just like, wow.
It's okay.
Because it's things I don't want to talk about. Because I adore her and I support her. And sometimes I get like I see so much of myself in her because she's going through the whole online dating stuff right now. And she like hates it. But at the same time, she's having fun. Like, I recognized, I'm like, I was that. I was serial dating like crazy when I moved to Vancouver. It wasn't necessary. I was having fun, but not really having fun. I was actually quite miserable because you keep going on these really bad dates. But I just couldn't help being jealous of her. And I even like downloaded Bumble out here and tried. And it very quickly reminded me why I deleted all these dating apps because I hated it. It's like, I'm like, what am I doing? I don't even want to be on here. Like, my reason to come to Japan was not to date. Like, why am I even downloading this? So I found myself trying to compete with her, or at least trying to catch up to her. But at the same time, I was rationally telling myself, why are you doing this? You don't need to keep up with this person. She's going on a completely different life path right now. And it's not even the one that you want. So why are you even bothering?
It's funny because your brain
competing with it.
That's when the brain is giving you logic. It's giving you logic to an illogical problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's an emotional problem. So your brain's like, what's a big deal? Like, and it doesn't connect to the heart though, right? Like, the answers.
No. Yeah.
It's not sticking.
It's like I just want like some kind of connection, and sometimes I feel a little like passed over, I guess. And I think sometimes I feel that because I am in an Asian country and I look like, I'm part of this race. But she's American. She's like, she stands out. Like, there's not many foreigners here, so she stands out. People always look automatically to her, and she's stunning. She's beautiful. But sometimes, I'm kind of, when I was back home in Canada, I was the minority, so I was constantly looked at. So now is this shift where I'm like, I'm not, like, I don't draw attention as much anymore.
You're not the center of attention anymore.
Yeah. And it kind of sucks.
I know.
It kind of sucks. And, I'm here listening, and this girl's like going on so many dates, and I just feel like, and, she's in her 20s, so she's going through that phase where she's like makeup and hair and clothes, and that was another thing I was adjusting to here in Japan. People dress very modestly here. So I just feel like, my uniform of just high cut, like high neck, crew neck t-shirts and covered up pants. And I just don't feel like
Sexy.
feminine. No, yeah, not at all. Because I have a story. So I went to a party, a work party in a smock, like that was literally to my neck, like shoulders, like just covered to my knees, shapeless. It wasn't even body hugging. I had 2 cutouts on my shoulders, and the whole night, every woman came up to me and kept saying how sexy I was, too sexy, and like. Yeah, don't even.
Like, do you want to see how
okay.
far I can go?
I know. I was like, this is, and yes, I did feel sexy in the dress. I did.
Yeah.
But I thought for me, I was like, well, this is modest, and it's just a little bit of skin. Everything else is covered. But like sometimes the Japanese culture, they're very passive aggressive in the way they say things to you. So they would never flat out say what you're wearing is inappropriate. They'll just keep coming up to you and keep saying things like, oh, aren't you cold? You know, aren't you worried about your legs being cold? Your shoulders. And like, oh, you're a little sexy. You're too sexy. They're like, oh, you're sexy. But that means
It's not
like,
a compliment.
yeah, it's not a compliment. So I've been feeling just unattractive, just kind of like covered up. So I feel like I can't express myself as much. And then I see this young girl that's constantly like, you know, beautiful.
Kelsey, what do
and,
you think, Kelsey? What do you think about that? You work obviously in this area a lot, so you
Sure.
were kind of in the area. I'm
Mm.
not dating, but I think it has nothing to do with dating. I think it has nothing to do with Japan. I don't think it has nothing to do with showing your shoulders. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. Because I think if we look back at the pattern, I think truly that this pattern was in Canada as well. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we kind of tie it to like a situation, but really if we go a little deeper, it's usually the same thing that's just bearing fruit
in a different.
Right. So what do you like
atmosphere.
being a woman, Kelsey, and coaching a lot of people in the dating scene? What are your thoughts?
I think that it's a very normal feeling that you're having. And I think that there's, you know, a little bit of envy in there more so than it is jealousy. And to be able to work with something, we have to identify it properly.
So, sorry, what's the difference?
So jealousy is like, you're afraid you're going to lose something. So jealousy can happen in a relationship. So let's say your partner is getting a lot of attention and then you're jealous of the person that's giving them attention because you're like, I might lose my partner. But envy is wanting to have what that other woman has that is compelling him to her. And so it sounds to me like there's more envy that's happening here. And just to be able to make that distinction gives you a little bit more access to your power. Because if we're misidentifying, then we're not actually going to be able to get to the root of where that envy even began. And so, you know, one of the things that comes up, and this comes up a lot for women, is that culturally, that globally, our worth rides on our youth and our looks and our bodies and everything that's external. And so it's so normal for you to be up against this, you know, for it to be showing up. And what your friend, in my opinion, is reflecting to you are pieces of yourself that you have temporarily disowned. So she's like illuminating this radiance, let's say. And then we have this experience of feeling envious because we're like, look at her light. Like, I want that because I'm somehow, my light has been dimmed a little bit. It's not out. Like, your light can never go out unless you're dead. You know?
Sometimes it feels that way.
It feels that way. It feels pretty damn dark some days. I get it. You know, but the thing is, like, you hold the, you know, the fingers on the dial here. So you're the one that has dialed it down, but you're also the one that can dial it back up. And, you know, that desire for connection that I heard, you know, because she's going out on all these dates and having all this fun and, you know, that desire for connection, you know, that's again, very normal to want that connection to another person. But unless we can start with that connection to self, we're going to use that other person as our vehicle for validation. And that isn't something that is sustainable long term. So radiance, especially in the feminine, comes from alignment with self. So sometimes alignment with self is, you know, those self-care elements. of, am I, putting nourishing things into my body? Am I getting high quality sleep? Am I drinking lots of clean water? Am I moving my body in intuitive ways that feel good to me? Then sometimes it's the personal development side of things, where we have to start looking at some of those old narratives, those old beliefs that take us off of our center. So anything that is like, listen, lady, you're past your prime, who's going to love you now that you're 30, whatever, and especially after we go through any form of trauma and our body shift, or, we have a different relationship to our body than maybe we had when we were 20. When we're 20, our bodies are really resilient. They bounce back quick. And not to say that that isn't true when we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s. It's just we have these belief systems that get built in our culture that say once you hit 30, it's really hard to get back into shape. Or once you're 40, like, there's no hope. Like, there's all this stuff in our culture that feeds this idea that all of a sudden our bodies are not going to be as responsive. And so we play into that. We make choices on a daily basis to reinforce that belief that, oh, now that I'm in my 30s, like, my radiance is gone. My body's not going to bounce back. Like, I just don't have the same light as a 20-year-old. But that's fundamentally untrue. Your light has everything to do with you coming into your alignment with yourself and being able to stay there on a consistent basis. So the more consistent you can be with staying congruent with your alignment, the easier it's going to be to reclaim that radiance, the less threatened you're going to feel by your girlfriend who's over there shining, because you're like, oh, if we shine together, do you know how much light we could create? Do you know how much attention we could have? This is a no-brainer.
This is not good coaching, Diane. Do not listen to her. That is out of control. I think that's, you do make some amazing points, Kelsey. I have this, can I ask you a couple questions that might just be a little bit left field a bit? Just some gut feeling. So
of course.
Tell me a little bit about your circle of friends.
My circle of friends right now, or back in Vancouver, or?
Well, just I more, let me ask you a little bit of a different way.
Okay.
I just have this gut feeling that we put ourselves in relationships, and it's almost like you want a love relationship and you want an intimate, you just want to be loved unconditionally, and all of this, like, we desperately all want that. That's just somehow it's built in. And I feel like, but then we put ourselves in relationships. So forget the intimate side. Okay. We put ourselves in relationships where we're not treated very well. For example, some family, I go by and going, what's the level of where you're okay with me treating you a little bit not so good? And the reason why I say that is because if you're coming from a bunch of these people that are around you, that's going to give you kind of a picture of your universe. Is a lot of times the people around you kind of create this, like, this is how life is. Like, I know if I hang out too much with my family, mom, dad, sisters, they're just not like me. I've taken a different journey to the point where I've had to make some moves away from that. And because every time I was around them, I just didn't feel lifted up and growing strong. And I just always felt like not quite, like, it doesn't have to be like they're beating me up, but I just wasn't in my zone. And then I go to the other side of the family, my wife's side of the family. It's kind of the same thing. They've got prejudgments. They're not the flavor, and I'm growing. Like, I'm like aggressively going, I am going to be me. I'm doing whatever it takes to be me, and I don't care what anyone thinks. I've kind of got to that place. Why I'm saying that is I'm just trying to get an idea of what your universe is like who in your life is influencing you, and does it make any sense?
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because all this, when I was filling out that survey, all of this came up when my parents just left. They visited me for 10 days.
Yeah, interesting. There you go.
And before that, I mean, I was kind of feeling it, but then, like, I was really trying to feminize my apartment again to kind of feel like, just bring back, like, femininity and, like, sensuality into my life. And then they came and they stayed with me for 10 days. And then they left, and I kind of, and my apartment's a mess again. And
Interesting.
and
You've let loose a little bit, like you just kind of
Yeah.
let your standard down a bit. So
Yeah.
that's fascinating, right? Like it's like we do have now here's the thing. What if that was our fault? Not their fault.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the absolute ownership that why did I do that? Why did I go into that situation, right? So that's a lot of our personal value and our self-worth and stuff like that. It's extremely, and I understand the Asian culture is really strong with family and expectations. I've coached a few different Asian people that are like, I have a guy that completely lied to his parents, said he has an engineer degree and he still has that story. Like
I lied about my art degree. I went to university for drama. And I lied and I said I was taking economics. I failed economics like 3 times.
Which must feel so good just to say that.
Telling the truth.
So the reason why I'm kind of going there, it just honestly is just the gut feeling. I was reading your stuff and I just kept thinking, like, who in your life do you need to disconnect from? Who doesn't strengthen you? So I just look at, are they strengthening me? Or are they weakening me? But it's also my fault. Does that make sense? We can't blame them.
No,
we just can't. They are who they are, right? They're beautiful in some sense and they're not beautiful in some sense. But I just think about that. And I think about sometimes if we want to see a shift in our self-worth, sometimes we gotta, our environments need to change sometimes. And you need to put yourself in a position where it's like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like there's this feeling of like, and it doesn't mean forever or whatever, but sometimes I just feel like, what's the standard of people treating me the way I want to be treated? Forget relationships now. That's down the road. But it's like, I'd go through all my relationships and think about like, hey, is this strengthening me or weakening me? And why do I keep hanging out with this person? Because then what you're doing is you're communicating to them that you're okay to be bullied. You're okay to be treated and talked down to. So there's this almost like you just got to rise up and be you. And it's like, there's this weird sense that you get to a place where like, I'm okay to be alone. I'm okay to stand alone because I want to be treated. And what happens is you start creating an attractiveness. It actually is really attractive. At first, it's really messy, but I just super lonely. Like it really is. It takes time, but there's just this tired of the same old shit. Like, do you feel that way? Just the same stuff. So
Yeah, I think that's why when they were back in my space, I moved like halfway across the country to be away from them, and I've had so much growth since here. And not that they're not supportive, they're more supportive now, but they still made not snide remarks. I don't, it came from a place of love. I'm not going to call it snide, but it was still like,
just so you know, we defend them and we always do this stuff.
Just I love them. I love my parents.
Well, there's a weird thing we do. Like I see this a lot can I just shoot straight? Are you cool with me shooting straight? I don't mean to ever, and I just want you to know, I have zero judgment to you. Like I just have compassion and I'm just like, anything I say, even if it might sound a little bit strong, I never mean to hurt you. Like you just want you to know that. Okay. And if I'm wrong, just go, you're wrong, dude. Okay. Like just because I say something, I've been around, trust me, ask my wife, I'm wrong all the time. But I'm just thinking like, where was I now? I was giving this massive disclaimer so I don't hurt your feelings and stuff.
Okay, you're going to shoot straight.
Like just the way even a little clue into yourself is that you're justifying their behavior. Like it's almost like, what would it sound like if we just said, look, that it like, oh, they're good people. Like we do this. That's the clue. It's like, so I only know this because I've lived that. And I see a lot of abused, I'm gonna make it extreme. Okay. Abused women do that to men that don't treat them good. So this is really weird. Okay. I could be totally off, but there's a behavior learned from that relationship that might actually go into your next relationship with a man. Okay. Because if you're not going to stand up to them, a man's going to have a weird subconscious ability to know how to control you. Okay. Because all I got to do is, if I put you down, just like, it's not really, they're a nice guy. He's a nice guy. But what if it's
joking
like,
tone.
Joking tone. Oh, I wish, I guess I'll just do it myself. What the fuck are you talking about? Do it yourself. There's this, and then you're like, oh, no, I don't mean to do that. Like there's that reaction that happens. Subconsciously, men grab that are fearful, that are insecure. Like, but I'm not saying controlling psychos. I'm saying everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone, and it just depends on who they are, is how far it goes. But there's a point in like, I look at that relationship that influences you to the point where, like, you're really impacted by them visiting. It's not them. Okay. But the fact that you justify them and you protect them is a behavior that I see a lot with women and men. So does this make any, is this kind of connecting the dots at all?
Sure. No, that totally, because I do that all the time. Like in my past relationships, it's just because I'm trying to be a good person. And I believe like in the good of people.
For sure.
Because I think overall people are decent human beings. So I think that if you slip up, it's like, oh, well, they're having an off day. It's fine. Like
that's because you're a beautiful human being. That's because you have a beautiful soul. Yeah. That just shows who you are.
And it's okay to have boundaries and still be connected. So a healthy boundary is one that allows you to be protected and connected. And so what Ben is, kind of getting at here is, defending our parents for their poor behavior. Like, our parents aren't perfect.
Yeah.
And our parents sometimes will embody these toxic patterns of behavior. And it's still okay to love your parents, but also identify that what they said hurt you. What they said wasn't okay. So it can be a both and. Like, I was hurt when they made this remark. It was a snide remark.
Yeah.
It hurt me.
And call it snide. It is snide.
Yeah, it is snide. Yeah. If that's what you picked up, like if you felt like that gut punch, because we all know what that feels like when someone is using a passive aggressive maneuver and it hits, it like really hits to the core. And for most people, it hits them right in their solar plexus because that's where your worth is centered. And so those types of comments are designed to get in there and to like literally kick you off your center. So you are talking about wanting more radiance.
Yeah.
So we got to look at what things in your life are kicking you off your center.
Yeah.
And also like, where can we get better at telling the truth? Because even justifying, what your parents said is being like, oh, they're good people.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a lie in there, because we're not telling the microscopic truth of what they said hurt me. So we're missing that piece of the truth. It's still true that they're good people. Yeah. But we're missing the other piece of truth that sometimes good people hurt people. Sometimes good people do bad things. Sometimes our parents, even, though they, do love us, they say toxic things. They do toxic things because, they, for whatever reason, haven't learned how to relate from a place of vulnerability. So when someone uses criticism, I actually just wrote a post about this before we got on here today. That we use criticism when we are incapable of identifying our needs and asking for them in a kind, compassionate, and vulnerable way. And so when your parents make a snide remark like that, it's because there's something going on with them that they don't know how to identify. And we can understand that, but we're also not going to make that okay. And so a really important practice for you will be noticing when those moments, those subtle moments of toxicity are happening. And then just saying, whoa, actually, that actually stung. That hurt. That wasn't okay. I think you're a good person, but that wasn't okay. Yeah. Simple.
But we don't. In that moment though, like let's imagine for a moment that you said, "Mom or Dad or boyfriend or friend." Yeah. That's not okay. Now just realize something. Okay, this is a really important point. Is at that point they're going, "Whoa, who's this?" You have been teaching them that it's okay to speak to you like this. So you have to realize that subconsciously, it's actually a deal you've made. Yeah. So you got to own it. I know I made this deal. I know you like me this way where I can, two things are going to happen. They're going to embrace you and go, oh, I love you like this. Finally, you're stepping into yourself and being strong. Or they're going to be like, I'm kind of into the girl that I can control. And so this is called renegotiating the relationship. And that comes from saying, you don't even have to be mean. You're just like, look, I don't like how you talk to me. Whoa, where's this coming from? And then you let them freak out a little bit. Yeah, because that's fair. Yeah, it's fair. That was the deal. You told me that I could treat you like this when I met you. How? I didn't say that. Well, you didn't say anything else when I cut you down. It's not like we're actually saying this, but that's the subconscious.
Yeah.
So in these relationships, it's like your friend or whatever, like, or anyone else, it's like, if you're going to shift a little bit and find some, what are they, lady balls? Is that what you
Backbone.
Backbone? I like lady balls.
Cool.
Lady balls. But balls are sensitive.
Okay, now we're like,
we're getting off track.
We're about to go off track on sensitive balls. We're going to stop.
This happens with me and Ben.
Yeah, no, we did. So, the quote for the Twitter feed. Aren't balls sensitive? What was that about? I'm just helping Diane here. But on a serious note, like I'll just tell you a couple stories, okay?
Okay.
My wife, like, I came from more of it being a controller, okay?
Okay.
I have a crazy background, lived on the streets, drugs, I abused in like psychologically as a kid and physically. And so I've got all this baggage but I'm really good dude. Like, I got this amazing depth and wisdom and insight mixed with a total controller. Yeah. So that's what happens when a woman gets attracted. They see that one side, and then they go, oh, well, and then they justify the other side. And that's kind of like Renee and I. So I've come to peace with that. I know that. And so what happens is Renee then starts getting her own voice, Kelsey. And so, and she stopped letting me, like, there was a time where she's like, no. I'm like, what the frick is going on?
Yeah.
So I raise mine, and I'm like, what the fuck? You're saying, what is it? And I'm now pushing as hard as I can. And I look back, by the way, this is vulnerable hour. Like, the thing is, it's not like, it's a big deal. Like, this is not like, it wasn't easy. And it's like, this process was like, I love this girl, so I'm sticking with it. And she loved me, but there was this weird alignment problem with our relationship where I would control her, and I wouldn't know. I watched my generations before me do the same thing. That's just what you do as a wife, as a woman, right? Yeah. And then she goes, no, I'm not doing this. She goes, no, she started by saying, you're doing your own laundry. What the fuck? Do you know how busy I am? She says, I go, do you know how busy I am? Do you know what I bring to this family? I'm the one, you know what? And I'm just like going crazy. And I'm like, and she's like, well, you're doing your own laundry. Yeah. Like, I'm thinking she's being passive aggressive. It's like, fuck yeah. But she wasn't. And so what happened was, by the way, I do my own laundry now. That's what's so crazy. And I don't mind. And it helps her out. Now we're at a different place. This is a few years ago. We've come a long ways. But that process is what we avoid. Because it sucks, and you will lose people. I promise you. People that you don't want to lose, you will lose them, because they never ever wanted a real relationship. They wanted Renee and I must love each other desperately to put our, like, we went through so much transition to actually have a half decent, healthy relationship, because that was the test. Like, we're strong now. Like, we really are. Like, we're in the best place we've ever been. So I tell you that story. Now I'm going to tell you one more story. This is something I've learned about being honest with people. And because I'm looking for real relationships, and it sounds like what you're looking for is real relationships. Because you're like, I'm not getting connected and filled. Forget the man thing for now. We put too much pressure on the mate. I like to look at all your relationships, because once you kind of figure out what's going on in the pattern, the man just falls in. Trust me. That's what happens. You become very attractive from an energy perspective. I guarantee you. So there's someone I coached, for years. I've always had this girl's back. Okay. She came to one of my workshops, and we were having this conversation. It was real and raw, and it was beautiful. My wife was in the room for the first time, like in a workshop. It was beautiful. I get called in. So it was a real estate thing. So I got this broker calls me and goes, I want to talk to you. And he starts accusing me of things that are just, I won't even say, like, accusing me of saying things that were so embarrassing, just disrespectful. And I'm like, I looked at him like, this is bullshit. Then what happened was, I went through this process, and I just kind of said, and this is where I hold on to, I need to stand on my own. Yeah. Because I know my truth, and I know this is bullshit. And I also know that I'm about to learn something. So I really embrace the pain of it. I embrace that pain that I'm going through, rather than going, oh, I don't like it. No, okay, I need to learn something. So that's my method. Now, the thing is, the story goes is that I called all the people that were in the conference, because he kind of wanted me to. Everyone was like, no, it was amazing. And there was one or two people that had I triggered their soul. That's what happened, okay? And they went into attack anger mode. Like, I literally unearthed some anger in a lady. And I think that's what happened, okay? So, and I'm cool with that. well, I don't like it, but I'm not cool with it. I dealt with
yeah.
it. Now here's the thing.
Yeah.
We're talking like 6 months later, I get a text from this person I have a great relationship with. She goes, hey, you want to come to my event and all this? And I was like, man, it was like I was harboring this anger. I'm like, fuck you. Like this feeling, I didn't say that, but it's like this energy. I'm like, screw that, I'm not going. So actually I ignore it. I ignore it again, the passive thing. And I'm like, I'm just kind of thinking, she's like, why ignoring me? And I didn't do it again. She's okay. And now she's getting angry at me. And I'm like, I said, and I had a choice. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go with real conversation. I'm going to go with real. So I said, how about we go for coffee and talk to each other? So I sat down at the table a few weeks later, sat down, and she is like ready to go. I didn't do anything. Like, I said, she goes, I know what this is about. Like, it started like that. Like, it was like, we have to kind of get through this process of who cares how they freak out for a second. And I'm just looking at the bigger picture. So I just started chatting with her. I said, do you know what I feel? And after I had to stop her 5 times to be like, no, you know what? I'm like, just let me speak. And I feel like a wuss. You offended me, and my feelings were hurt. And I just feel like, and I'm like, ignore that ego. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to tell you that I wish you had my back, because you were there and you know the truth, and you didn't say, well, I was stuck in the middle. I said, but choosing no side, you chose to support the guy accusing me. And I said, I just want to tell you, I would have had your back, and I still have your back, and I wish that you'd have my back. And now, because of that conversation, it was like odd for her, because no one has these conversations. Like, it was healthy. I'm like, don't freak out. I expect it. Like, I'm not fighting her. I came with an honesty, with zero expectation. I just needed to clean my soul. But I was hoping that the bonus would be that we'd be in a relationship again. So now she sends me a text a few days later, says, Ben, I just want to tell you I'm really sorry. I totally have your back. And it was like this beautiful mending. The only reason I know that is because I want to show you what's possible, because that's what happened to Renee and I. That it actually can come back together. We just wreck relationships and never fix them. And then we just keep repeating that. But there's an honesty that comes from that. And so that's the technique and the depth of relationship, where I just have an honest truth without an expectation. And I hope that we can get deeper, because that's the possibility. So I know I've kind of talked a little bit long here with the 2 stories. I'm hoping that you can kind of capture the essence of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much goodness in there, Ben. Jeez.
I should have stuck with one story. Sorry.
No. I think that they were both really important, and you make a very valid point that when you start standing your ground, and you can stand your ground from a place of kindness, and firmness, assertive, and that will shake shit up.
It just does.
Some people are not going to be on board with you and your new level of authenticity, because like Ben said, they've come to learn you as someone who they can manipulate, step over, treat in a certain way. And when you stand up and you're like, actually, no, not anymore, like, they are going to do one of 2 things. They're going to elevate with you, or they're not.
Exactly.
And if they don't, like, we have to, kind of prepare ourselves in advance for that, so that we don't take that as a hit to our self-worth, that, oh, they're not coming along the journey with me, so that must mean there's something wrong with me. Well, no, it just means that you guys are misaligned.
And there's a transitional point. It's like the caterpillar turning into it looks so screwed up for a bit. But you're actually investing in the relationship for real. Not like the surface level. That's real investment. And if they have to invest back to make a real relationship, but it takes time. You just shook them up. You just exposed them. You just exposed what they're like and who they are. And so there's a process that you have to let people freak out. It reminds me of Cesar Millan. Do you remember Cesar Millan, the dog trainer? So he's the dog whisperer. And the dog whisperer, what he would do is say there's this dysfunctional dog, okay? What he would do is he'd put him on a leash or whatever, they call it red zone, and they would let him freak for a while. Just let the energy out. Let the energy out. The dog would lose his mind. He'd be barking, trying to bite. And he just stayed as calm as you could ever imagine. And this is assertive calmness. And you're just like, no, I'm not budging. No, I really believe that I don't want to be treated that way. I want a relationship with you. And they're freaking out. It reminds me of and what happened was eventually the dog would just calm down, because they took on your energy. They took on the energy of the person holding the. So in the moment, you just have to stay calm and assertive and just trust that there's a little bit of a freak out that's happening, but they're just almost like releasing energy. It's a bit, if you can reframe it as not an attack, Like they're just having a problem right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like our minds want to make behavior mean something. So when this person freaks out, it must mean that they don't love me anymore. It must mean I'm a bad person. And so we have to remind ourselves constantly about that meaning-making machine called our mind. And if you're going, like, you can't get rid of that function of your brain. You just can't. But you can give it a higher purpose. You can give it a new directive. You can say, okay, if you're going to make meaning, at least make a meaning that is going to empower me on my journey.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they are freaking out if you can tell the microscopic truth about that, of like, right now, it's very clear that you are having an emotional experience.
Yeah.
If you said that, this is going to make them real mad. But just so you know, I tried like that. It doesn't come across so.
Exactly. So most of the time you say that in your head. You
Yeah,
say that
like,
to yourself.
Yeah, you just want to, you know
right.
what? I'm amazing, and you're the one with the problem. That's pretty much, that's
great.
all that, trust me, that's what they hear. I guarantee you, it's like, wow, you're arrogant. No, I'm enlightened. Like, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. I'll tell you, like, I can write a book on what not to say in your personal growth journey.
No, that is true though, because they're like, oh, you know, I've read a bunch of self-help books. I've been through this year. Like, Kelsey, I will give you some advice. Unsolicited advice.
No. Do you notice when
I will enlighten your way out of your emotions?
Yeah. You just come to me. I read the book.
Well. Does not go
I'm
over
a
well.
seasoned pro, you guys.
Yeah, I've read like 3 books. I've read 3.
Yeah.
You should read this book. What are you saying? Oh,
yeah, it's a good book.
Do you know what the technique is? Just to ask permission. If you ever want to help someone, just like I said, hey, look, can I get straight with you? Because I respect you as a human being, and I think that we all have our stuff. And I think if we ever do want to share, just ask permission. And then if they don't give you permission, then and you still want to share, that's your problem.
Yeah.
Like they're not ready. They're not going to listen to anyways, right? You have to let that.
Yeah.
So we're at about 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
I'm great for time, doing well. Can I ask you a quick thing? Is what are you hearing us say? Like, what are you getting? Because I'm so results oriented. Like, I want to make sure you are like. I'm sorry. Let me. I don't want to add the pressure like that. I want to make sure that. I just want to make sure that I know
Diane, have you had your breakthrough yet?
Yeah, and that's not what I'm saying. Oh my goodness.
What's my timeline?
Is it done yet? 40 minutes
until I have a breakthrough.
Most guests are 40 minutes for a breakthrough. You're at 42. So
we're a little overbaked here.
Like, we need to get this going. Yeah, let's not do that. So I just want to hear, like, me and Kelsey have talked a lot, and I'd like to hear what you're hearing us say.
You know, I thought I had boundaries, or I thought I had set good boundaries. But now I realize there are certain relationships where in my mind, I'm like, oh, I have boundaries with these people, but I don't, because I'm afraid of speaking up and hurting their feelings, or getting, especially with my parents, like huge disappointment.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how hard of a relationship I had with them. And even now it's better than it was before. I still have that part of me that's always like making decisions so that they're proud of me.
For sure.
So, you know, and I think what hurt the most when they were here was they're constantly saying, oh, we can't wait until you come back, and then your sister will take care of you. You know, she's so successful. She'll take care of you. She'll find a job for you. And I think what hurt is that, you know, like, I recognize that my sister is very successful. I also recognize I'm so proud of her, and I recognize that she's done very well for herself. But, you know, I moved to Japan all by myself. I have this great teaching life all by myself. I built all of this by myself. And still, it's like they don't recognize that. And they just constantly say, well, when you come back, your sister will set you up with a job.
So just so you know, I don't know if they're able to. I don't know if they're able to recognize that. They have their own filter. I was going to tell you something. I desperately wish my dad would just call me.
Yeah.
I wish he would just say, Ben, how you doing? He doesn't.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. Like, my entire life was just fucking, like, man, I went to was in Connecticut, spoke to like 500 people. They paid me like $10,000. And and my dad crossed my mind. I thought, man, didn't even mention it. He doesn't want it because he makes it all about, I don't know why. Like I want to justify and make him like, oh, he's not that bad of a guy. I feel like doing that too right now. So I just want to tell you something though. If we think that's gonna go away, we'll be waiting a long time. So there's a thing about living. It's almost like, I don't know. It's almost like we try to get something. It's not attainable, and then our whole life we're just chasing it, right?
Yeah.
So, but I just want to tell you, the pain doesn't go away. I wish my mom and dad would just absolutely give me what I want as a mom and dad, but have they ever, like maybe once in a while? Yeah. But it's barely. Like I feel like I'm just so it's a weird thing about I couldn't accept that that's how they were until I accepted me. Yeah. And the only way to accept me is to stand alone in what I believe. And that's where this inner strength comes, right? Yeah. So I feel like you're gonna go on that wheel constantly, like your parents are, but the thing is, I think it just goes away. The power of it goes away, the influence goes away, but the pain is there. Yeah. Of course, I wish my parents would be like, man, I'm so proud, but like really proud. So I just want you to know that that's a struggle that I have as well, like deeply, and it's affected but it does not motivate me anymore. But how much time do I spend? Not as much as I want to, like, hey, let's hang out. But then afterwards I feel like, my apartment's dirty. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I feel like that's something that I think to come to peace with is that it's almost like weird because it's like I'm coming to peace with the pain that they're proud of other people. And they say they're proud of me, but I know the difference. Yeah. The actions are louder than the words. So it's something that I feel like I've tried to figure out, and it's just unfigure-outable. Yeah. I think it's just about embracing the pain of it. Sounds really weird. Yeah, no. And just living my life, because it doesn't go away. Like if we think it's going to change, like it's not. No. It's just how they are, right? You think, Kelsey? You probably have your own story with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like my parents are, very proud of me. My mom is quite vocal about that. Yeah. My dad is not. My dad is very vocal about how proud he is of me to everyone but me.
That's my story, Kelsey. That's the same thing that happens to me.
Like I go to the pub where my dad hangs out and I talk to all of his friends and they are like beaming about like how all this amazing stuff that I'm doing. I'm like, how do you even know that? They're like, your dad told me and he's so proud of you. Like that is the consistent thing. Yep. And so I used to get really upset by the fact that my dad wasn't saying that directly to me. So I did two things. First, I accepted him as he is. And like, this is what my dad is comfortable doing for whatever reason. Like
it's in his story.
It's in his story.
It's not yours. Yeah, it's his story.
And so I'm just going to embrace him as he is because I suffer when I expect him to be a way that he's not. And I am committed to peace. And so to be committed to peace, I have to actually accept who he is, not, try and force him into this fantasy of who I want him to be. Yeah. And then the second thing I did was I just started asking directly for what I wanted. So I would get on the phone with my dad and I'd be like, you know what, Dad, this really amazing thing just happened. And what I need from you is to hear that you're proud of me. Yeah. I just said flat out what I needed to hear from him. And then he would like so generously be like, Kelsey, I'm so proud of you. And then he would like open up like this beautiful fucking flower. I'm like, really? This is all I had to do this entire time.
It's just why 3 or 4 siblings have 3 or 4 siblings have 3 or 4 different stories about their childhood with the same parents. Yeah. It's just a perspective. It's our own issues. That's where honesty comes in and that conversation's honest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, if you can get to a place, and it's a process, of being able to accept your parents for the people that they are, not who you fantasize them to be or want them to be, and this is part of the individuation from the family system. Yeah. So individuation is an essential psychological process that we must go through in order to find our footing in the world.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what happens is on an unconscious level, we relate to our parents as though we're still infants. And when we're infants, our parents are required to be perfectly attuned to our needs. Because if they weren't, we would have died.
Yeah.
So as infants, like our parents were attuned. When we cried, they fed us, or they changed us, or they held us. And so that's why we even get to be adults, is because there was that attunement. But what happens when we get to young adulthood is we have to start individuating from that child psyche to an adult psyche. And in an adult psyche, what happens is we have to become responsible for our needs, which means we have to use our words. We have to communicate what's true for us instead of assuming, especially with our parents, that they are mind readers and they know exactly what to do to make sure that we're taken care of. Yeah. And so any time that you've slipped into, like, I want to know that they're proud of me and I'm not communicating that to them, all that's happened is you've just slipped into the child psyche. And there's an opportunity to reclaim your alignment and step forward into your adult psyche by just inquiring with yourself, like, what is it that I need recognition for? What is it that I need validation for? And those are very real needs. It's not like we're saying you can't be validated or recognized and like you should be able to do that all on your own. Like, no, we need other people. But start building your social circle to be the place where you can go to get nourished in that area. So you have those 5 key people that if your parents, for whatever reason, cannot be attuned to that need, you still have access. You have people around you who support you, who want to see you shine, who you could call up and be like, I'm having a human moment here and I need to be reminded of my brilliance. Like, when I went through my breakup with Connor, that was an agreement I set up with my 5 closest friends. And like, I know that I'm going through this really tough time right now where I'm going to constantly be challenging my worth. And I'm going to think at times that I'm totally unworthy and I'm unlovable and I have no inherent value in the world. And so I need to have this agreement with you where I can call you sometimes and just ask you to validate me and to remind me of my brilliance when I temporarily forget. And so like that phase didn't last forever. Like that was about the first 4 months of the breakup where I was heavily using that, once or twice a week, because those depths of pain when we're moving through that are really heavy. And so you can set up agreements like that, set it up with your sister. You and your sister have a close relationship. She's in the world of personal development too. So it's not going to be weird to her that you want to set that agreement. And then look at your social circle. Do you have people around you that you could easily have that conversation with? And if not, is there a possibility for that relationship to become a little more authentic? Or are we, in this zone of new possibility of welcoming people in who are a stand for your greatness just as much as you're a stand for theirs? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the people that you surround yourself with, like we said at the very start, are either going to reflect back to you those old, outdated stories and fears of not being good enough or being past your prime or like all that shit, or they're going to reflect back to you your worthiness, your value, your brilliance, your light, your luminosity. And so we have to be really strict at who we allow access to, our lives, really. Like I have my inner circle. That inner circle is small. Then I have like secondary and third, level tiers, whatever. And those people don't get a lot of access to me. Because they're not as nourishing as my core tribe. And in those core relationships, like if they are not positively enhancing my experience of being alive and I'm not positively enhancing theirs, I have no business investing all my time in being friends with them. Because it's actually taking me further off my center instead of being really, really selective with who gets access to my time and energy. When we're lonely, we can drop that standard. And we're like, anything will do. And then our soul is like, no.
and then you're angry, depressed, eating ice cream, a lot of ice cream.
A lot of ice cream.
And the radiance goes out the window.
And which is your, by the way, which is your attractiveness. And that's what's so crazy. Women, this is my opinion, women try to doll themselves up, and it's great. A beautiful woman's amazing, but there is nothing like a woman that knows who she is. Like that level of like literally, that is the most attractive thing. And a good man knows that. You know what I mean? A really good man just goes, holy crap, you're beautiful. Not just on the outside. Like there's something about it. And that's the thing. It's like, if you're trying to be someone for someone or be something else, then you're not sure what you're looking at. From a subconscious level, as a guy, I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm looking at here. Is this her? Is what's like, I just want to know who you, like, I just want to see the faults. I just want to see the real things. But if you're cool with your faults, that's attractive. Super attractive. Like perfect is not attractive. That's the most unattractive. To be honest, that's the most biggest turnoff ever, is a perfect girl. And I think if you want to attract a guy, a good guy, it's almost like you become cool with your imperfections. And if you can own the shit out of them and just say, this is who I am, it's like, ooh, I kind of like her. A confident man will be attracted.
Yeah.
Do you see the same thing, Kelsey? That's just my opinion.
I mean, it's my personal experience too. Like Diane, after like that train wreck with Connor, like my body just started putting on weight. Yeah. And then we break up and I'm like, who is going to love me now? Yeah. And I remember hearing that right after we broke up, and I was like mortified that I had placed so much of my value in what my body physically looked like. And I was completely disowning my character, and that my character was this like selling feature, you know? And so since breaking up, it's been a process of reclamation, of just actually owning my body. And like it started like when we first broke up, I was like, okay, there's literally nothing I like about my body anymore. And I was like, wait, that can't be true. That cannot be true.
Not 100% true, for sure.
I'm like, I like my eyes. Like no matter what happens, like I have stunning eyes, and my hair is so soft. For whatever reason, I really like my collarbone. Like, and so I was starting to like find these strange things. I'm like, oh, I have nice toes, you know? And so it started there of like just noticing one thing.
You started
and, like,
little pieces.
And like that whole, you know, body love movement of like, just stand in front of the mirror naked and just love yourself. You know,
like, I don't want to do that sometimes.
When I'm in the mirror naked, it's like, geez.
No. Like, no.
Oh, I need to get some good at the gym.
I'm just like,
that's so funny.
I'm not as fit as I want to be.
Well, you can you can tell someone they're beautiful a million times. You can look in the mirror 100 times. If you don't believe it, it's just a waste. That's even when Renee's like, how do I look? I'm like, how does the outfit look? I'm like, I don't know. I think it makes you look a little fatter than normal. Like, imagine saying that, but there's just such a level of like honest and trust that's like, that's the coolest place. It's almost like, oh, what did you say? I'm like, I said the truth. And it was never, and you know what I mean?
And Diane, that's really how I got to the place of like, and now like I notice, I look at pictures of myself and like, yeah, my body has changed. But I didn't go on some like crazy diet or like be working out every day. Like, but I got to a place of getting really honest with myself about what was true for me. So the more I told my truth on myself, whether that truth was I'm having a human moment, I'm experiencing my shadow, like I'm, you know, believing that I have no worth or value, like that was part of owning my truth. Another part was like actually releasing, you know, my opinions out into the world on a bigger scale. Like I've been able to grow my following in a really fast, you know, pace, you know, and that had a lot to do with just being really consistent, but also speaking my truth in a way that was kind. Like not once have I ever thrown Connor under the bus, and I will not speak poorly of him. Like, yeah, shitty things happened, you know, bad choices happened, but I'm not going to like entertain that type of vibration. I'm going to tell the truth. So when people ask me what happened, I will tell them the truth, but I'm not going to, you know, slam his character. I'll stick to the facts. And the same is true, you know, with my life. Like I don't want to spend too much time talking about my ex-boyfriend because I want to go in this new elevated direction, you know? And so it took me, you know, finding those places on my body that I could appreciate on a daily basis. And then eventually getting to the place where I'm like getting out of the shower, I'm like, damn, like the other day when I got up, I was like, oh, wow, look at you.
The morning belly, right? The morning belly.
You're like,
Everything. I was like, damn, like you're like perfect curvy now. I'm like this style of your body really works for you. And like the self-narrative was so different. Cool. And, you know, part of that has to do with like what I've done with my business in the last year and a half. So I was playing it really small up until we broke up, and then we break up and all of a sudden I have no choice but to elevate. And so I started owning what I was put on this planet to do. As soon as I started writing music again, that's when my body transformed. And it honestly, Diane, it felt like it transformed overnight. Like all of a sudden I looked in the mirror, I'm like, what happened? Like, but I'm writing music. I'm doing what my soul is calling me to do. My soul was calling me to do this relational education and write music.
And you could never, ever experience that if you just didn't stand alone and say, and stop making people happy. Yeah. The biggest curse we put under ourselves is that we make the people happy, and you're like, what's my passion? What do I want to do in life? Well, you'll never, ever do it unless you stand alone and no one can be happy or not. Like nobody has an opinion about your music, Kelsey. Like no one has an opinion that you should play. It doesn't, like, if we stop making people happy, then your gift shows up. But we live under this. So just one thing I want to, we probably should wrap up here. We're getting to about an hour. I just wanted to talk about, just really quickly, one thing to think about is infinite patience. And I feel like that's a little sign you should put on the wall for you. Is infinite patience. Infinite patience is what produces instant results. Okay? Infinite patience produces instant results.
Yeah,
okay.
Because I do feel like I'm a very patient person. I do. I know I'm a very patient person.
But you know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking about if I'm not, well, you actually know what, you might, on that level, that's a whole nother conversation, which we're probably not getting, but maybe you shouldn't be so patient. That's a whole nother angle. I'm talking about patient with where you want to go, what you want to be, the man that's showing up in your life, the relationships. I think there's an infinite patience there. But if you're being too patient, maybe you need to speak up a little bit and say, there's two angles. I just want to make sure I say that. And here's a little practical technique for you, okay? Next time you're with your friends and they say, where do you want to go to eat? Yeah. Are you the one that goes, oh, I'm cool with whatever? Yeah. I had a feeling. So, yes. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to do two things. Two things are going to happen. First, they're going to say, hey, we're going, I don't know what the heck in Japan, sushi, right? Yeah. Sushi. Like we're going for sushi. You're like, I don't want to. I don't really want to go. Can we go and make a suggestion? This is how you're going to find your voice. Like talking to your mom and dad is the big, like that's a volcano. Like that's a big one. I'm talking like start with the little things where when someone goes, hey, what do you want to drink? And you're like, what do I really want to drink? Because I think probably you have trained your brain, which is not supporting you right now. Your brain is going to support you in the same patterns you know. So you're going to have to create new data. Once you have new data, your brain will support you. And the new data is you have to go, do you want pizza or sushi tonight? Oh, I'm fine. Yeah. Actually, no, I don't want sushi. I want pizza. Is that cool? And everyone goes, yeah, we'll bend to you. And you're going to go, oh, I feel so bad. I like everyone wanted sushi. Just ignore that. Use the technique. Whenever someone asks you what you want, don't be easy. Like
don't say nice. I don't know.
Always
What's that?
Pizza. Okay. Always say pizza.
Whatever it is, just anyone that if you get asked, don't go, oh, I'm easy. Never. It's just a technique to start getting your voice out there. Super easy one you could leave with right now and start immediately. Like, oh, I'm easy. I'll have whatever. No, what do you want?
Yeah. Or I don't know is a big one. Yeah. Like that, and that happens in the dating
all the time. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever. I'm happy.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, like I don't know, but you do know. Is that what you're saying? You freaking know. Like, do you want sushi? I had sushi like 9 times in the last week. I don't want sushi. I want like, and then people, guess what you're doing in that moment? You're saying you are actually breeding respect. That is how you breed respect, because you say your opinion and stand on it. And but not like, I'm a woman, hear me roar. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
or I'm the man and I want it my way or the highway. I'm just saying, this is what I want. But
Yeah.
you say your truth, practice on the little stuff. It's just like Kelsey liked her little big toe or whatever it was. It's just the little stuff. You have to take piece by piece. And then maybe down the road, you'll have a conversation or read a letter to your parents and how you really feel. But sometimes we start with the big stuff and it's explosive and you're not ready.
Yeah. Very, very wise, Ben. I love that.
Okay. I didn't realize I was even doing that, honestly. I was like, yeah, I do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
welcome to the magic of the Ben and Kelsey vortex.
Yeah.
Things you didn't even know were happening.
You have just entered the vortex.
like, what do I want?
Yes.
Wow,
yes.
that gives me shivers what you just did.
Yeah.
Like that is amazing. We're talking about pizza and sushi, but that question is now you just found the pathway to the big one.
Yeah.
You just found the doorway that you open up to get to the really big questions on what do I really want, which nobody answers because you don't even know what's about pizza or sushi. You never speak your mind on the small stuff. You'll never do it on the big stuff. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So what do I want? That's beautiful.
Do I want? Yeah.
Well, do you know what? I think if everyone's cool, I think we should wrap up.
A success.
I think, I hope Diane, you've had added value in your life and maybe I know we've had a great conversation here.